Hi, everybody. I am Trey, one of your average film enjoyers, and I am here to tell you that you can win over $500 worth of movie stuff. So, if you're listening to this podcast, you're a huge movie fan. Obviously, you wouldn't be listening if you didn't love film like me and Jagger. And so me and Jagger, along with three other content creators on TikTok, Film Gunch, who we've had on here, Wes, who we've had on here a couple times, and then one of our good friends, Real Takes, we are all joined together doing a giveaway currently. And how you join this giveaway is you go to each of our pages. We all have the giveaway video pinned. And you'll go on to that video. You'll give us all a follow. We each account is tagged in every video, and then comment down below. Tag 5 of your friends, and if you tag 5 different friends in all 5 different videos, then you can get up to 30 entries. 30 entries. You can get up to 30 entries. So, but you're like, Trey, well, you're telling me about this, but I don't even know what I can win. Well, I'll tell you what you can win. Real Takes is donating a 4K Harry Potter collection, Blu-ray James Bond collection, I believe a 4K collection of the Planet of the Apes films, and the first 3 John Wick movies in 4K. I'm donating 3 criterions of your choice, so whoever wins get to choose 3 criterions, and we'll mail those to you. Jagger, my co-host, is donating a bunch of international DVDs. Gunch is donating Don Hertzfeld and I can't remember the other guy's name. Well, the animated show. It's a very limited edition animated sketch comedy show. He has a bunch of steelbooks of all 3 seasons, so he's donating those. And then the biggest one, Wes, is donating a region-free Blu-ray player. So, if any of those items interest you, again, go to any of our TikTok pages. Go to me and Jagger's TikTok page, Trey the Film Noob, Jagger Film Reviews. We have the videos pinned on top of our pages, so go check them out, follow the instructions. The giveaway ends when we are all 5 of us at 1,000 followers. And me and Jagger are the only ones that haven't hit 1,000 followers yet. So please help us get us there so we can give away all this movie merchandise. Now, let's get to the podcast. One.
Hello, everyone. Oh.
Just go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Average Film Enjoyer Hooptober. Today, we're going to be talking about a classic and a personal favorite of mine, John Carpenter's masterpiece, Halloween, from 1978. The origin of one of the worst horror series ever, but one of the most iconic. So, is what it is. But yeah, I would like to ask all of you what your thoughts were upon first watching this.
You got what you want. And by the way, everybody listening, this is Allan and Will.
Oh, I apologize.
It's okay. These Allan we had on for our Malignant episode, our very first Hooptober episode. And Will, this is our first time having you on. They are both from the... Oh, gosh. You guys are Fistful of Films. Yeah. There's so many. They're both from the Fistful of Film pod. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a pretty busy day. Got a bunch of movie done.
To yap about movies, so you know.
Yeah.
I'm just watching movies.
Hell yeah. Okay, first thoughts. Will, why don't you go first? Because I know you love this movie.
Yeah, so I saw this movie probably the first time when I was 10, and then since then it's just kind of been a little annual tradition. Every Halloween I'll turn on the first and second one and just do a little back-to-back. And I just love this film. I love Michael Myers. I think he's the greatest horror character of all time. It's my second favorite horror movie ever, and fifth in like my all-time rankings in movies in general. Uh, it's just, I think it's John Carpenter's masterpiece easily. I think it clears the thing, and just really excited to dive in and talk about it some more.
Yeah. Alan, what about you?
Yeah, not as big on it as Will. I think for what it is, I think it's a very well made movie. But the only above average thing about it is the score. But again, I think it's really well made. It does not clear the thing. I think the thing is better. They Live is better. Christine is better than Halloween. And then there's always an argument about if Texas Chainsaw Massacre is better. And in my head right now, I think it is better, but I need to rewatch it. But overall,
Yeah.
it's like a middle 3.5, I think max. Maybe it'll be a 4. I don't know. It's good.
Yeah, it seems like me and Alan are in the same. It's kind of this this podcast episode is kind of split down the middle. Because I also have this at 4. I definitely think The Thing clears this movie. The Thing is one of my all-time favorite horror movies. I think They Live clears. They Live at 5 stars. I haven't seen any other Carpenter, so I can't really comment on like Christine or anything. I also think Texas Chainsaw Massacre clears, but that's a really hard movie to beat. Yeah, I don't think it's anything like. Okay, we'll get into that later. I don't think it's anything revolutionary. I don't think it's like anything like we haven't seen before when it came out. Like, we'd seen the slasher genre done before this, obviously. The serial killer genre of horror. I do agree with Will. Michael Myers is, because you can't really choose Ghostface as a horror character since it's a different person every time. Like if I had to choose a Ghostface, obviously Stu Macher, but Michael Myers is my favorite like horror character villain. I think he's just so iconic, and that theme music, I think Alan touched on the score in this. John Carpenter, I don't know who does the score for his films, but they are
John Carpenter does the score
him,
for John Carpenter films.
Are you serious? He's the composer too?
Yeah.
That's crazy. My man is a jack of all trades. Yeah, that's the score is just so damn good.
The synth goat.
Yeah. Jagger, what about you? First time you watched this, opening thoughts?
This was the first horror movie I ever watched. So this was a huge like impact on.
I'm not muted for that? My bad, guys.
So yeah, this was like
I'll cut that out.
this was like a huge movie for me because of that. So I guess maybe that's bias, but I don't know. I think that despite bias, it is still an incredible film. It has held up shockingly well. Saying that Christine is better is wild, might I add. But there's parts of this movie that still kind of give me chills. Like when they look out the window and he's standing there with the clotheslines and everything waving. That's like an incredible moment for film as a whole, and one of the most iconic in all of cinema. So I think that this is a film that deserves all of the respect that it gets.
Yeah, I don't totally agree, but I can agree on some of the points you made there. I apologize to everybody. I thought when I muted my microphone, like when I pressed the button on here, it wouldn't pick up, but then it just transfers to my computer microphone and still picks up what I'm yelling in the background. So I apologize to all our listeners for that. Yeah, I think I don't know. There's nothing here that like blows my mind, right? So like if I watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the camera work, I'm like, wow, this is top tier. If I watch the first Scream movie, the way Wes Craven kind of like, we talked about this, Jagger, on our Scream episode, Wes Craven kind of flips the whole slasher genre on its head. Like, that really blew my mind, you know? And there's nothing here that does that for me. Even The Thing, if we're talking about other John Carpenters, the practical effects in that film are the best practical effects I've ever seen. They look outstanding. They look absolutely disgusting. And there's just nothing here in this film that does that for me. But again, I can still recognize how masterfully it is done. Go ahead.
You said that this movie was not very, like, revolutionary. Before this, slashers consisted of The Town That Dreaded Sundown. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre is great. But that's, like, the only big slasher before this. And that's why people refer to Halloween as the grandfather of slasher movies. Because without Halloween, there would be, like, Texas Chainsaw, which, again, doesn't feel like a slasher per se. Because slasher's associated with cheesy. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a lot of things. I wouldn't say cheesy is one of them. And I think that Halloween was something that did revolutionize the slasher genre. For 1978, yeah.
For me, I feel like Halloween is the reason why Texas Chainsaw Massacre is as popular as it is, and why it's so genre defining and revolutionary. But I would still consider Texas Chainsaw Massacre the epitome of like top slasher, like just off of how memorable it is and how much it affects like the genre as a whole.
Totally.
And I think Halloween, it's because of Halloween being so popular.
Yeah.
I don't even think we'd have movies like Scream or any of the big slashers today if it wasn't even for like Halloween in general. I mean, it really was one of the trailblazing films that like helped birth the slasher subgenre, just revitalized it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and I totally agree with that. Can someone remind me? I've never seen it, but isn't Black Christmas a slasher? That's one.
It is, but it wasn't.
It wasn't
like that popular until after Halloween. Like,
I didn't know. I thought that was like a huge thing. Okay, that's just something that's been on my watch list for a while, and I was like,
I mean, the first slasher was, I don't remember. It was before Psycho's Peeping Tom. I think it came out 2 months before Psycho, and Psycho's usually considered the first slasher, but Peeping Tom.
Interesting.
That was in the '60s, so.
Yeah.
And Black Christmas didn't get a following until a little while after it came out.
Yeah.
So
this was like a hit, like when it came out.
right away.
everyone went to see it.
Because John Carpenter, famously, a lot of his stuff has become cult classics over the years. Like, they weren't huge hits when they first came out, but this one was. This is one of the few that was. But like The Thing and They Live, and I believe Escape from New York, possibly, were all three.
Movies. Yeah,
they like flopped at the box office, but now those are like considered like cult classics. Like The Thing is, I believe, #1 on Letterboxd's top 250 horror films. I think it's the highest rated horror film on Letterboxd. They Live is a classic. Escape from New York is a classic, which is just really interesting. And that goes to show, like, I definitely am not disagreeing with you guys on how revolutionary it was for the genre, because that also goes to show that this is like one of his few that made a bunch of money. And also we get Jamie Lee Curtis, the Scream Queen. She's absolutely outstanding in this. Is Jamie Lee Curtis the best final girl in horror movies? That's my question.
I'd go Ellen Ripley, personally.
Yeah? Well, what about you?
Just because I just said Neat Prescott, just because there's all the movies are so good and everyone she's been in she's just so good in all of them. But I definitely think probably Ripley and Laura, would make up the top 3 for sure.
Yeah, Jagger?
Here's the thing. I'm kind of tied up between Halloween and I'd say, what's her name? Clarice in Silence of the Lambs is kind of a final girl with that, like, ending scene.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say it's sort of a tie-up between those two.
Yeah. Yeah, usually I would be Will on this, as Nev Campbell in Scream, Sidney Prescott, because I love those films. I mean, the third one, not so much. I think that one's fine, but the rest of them are super good. But I think about Jamie Lee Curtis, and I think about less about the quality of the movies over the years, and more about the character of Laurie Strode. And like, if it, like, yes, the newer trilogy of the Halloween movies, like the Legacy sequel that turned into like that trilogy with Halloween, Halloween Ends, and Halloween Kills. The first one actually pretty solid. The next two are freaking terrible. But the one shining light of all three of those is how much of a badass Laurie Strode is. And that's my opinion. I think she's the best, like, final girl, final woman. You know, like, all of her stuff where she's just gearing up, getting ready to kill Michael Myers in Halloween. I think that's awesome. Yeah, does anybody have any last final thoughts on this great horror film?
Yeah. What I think made this film so unique and so popular, especially at the time, was just the whole idea of the suburbs being safe. And because at the time, most of the horror films, centered, there was big cities like Death Wish. That was big at the time. It was in a city. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was in some rural area. But where this one is just in the suburbs, you don't know which house he could be in. He could literally, after anybody, he's on the street, he disappears. You literally no way to locate him whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think really adds to the buildup of tension, paranoia, and dread. And
Yeah,
I just think
sure.
it's done so well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's definitely not something I've thought about before. Alan, what were you about to say?
I was just gonna say I think all the sequences in the daytime are like scarier to me than the night ones. Like this new movie that came out this year, Insidious: The Red Door. It's not great, but they had a sequence like in the day that I thought was really really well done. Because I don't know, there's just something eerie about horror sequences during the day because you expect it to be uh, devoid of light usually, and during the night. So I think those are really effective.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's something to be talked about there, as far as day horror and day action, because like when you think about it, the darker it is during a shot, during an action sequence, during a horror movie, the more the more they can kind of slack off and not really focus on the little details. But when you're having it take place during the day, you have to focus on these tiny little details. You have to focus on everything and make sure it looks perfect, because during the daytime you're going to be able to pick out those little like inconsistencies. Which, yeah, I totally agree with you, Alan. Jagger, what about you? Oh, and Jagger has left. That's all right. Thank you, everybody. Oh, he's back. Is he? Well, yeah. Jagger, something's happening with Jagger. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. He's back. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Allan, Will, thank you for coming on. Go check out the Fistful of Films podcast, which I don't think I ever talked about on here. I was on an episode of it was either last week or 2 weeks ago. You guys are currently working your way through Tarantino's filmography. Yeah, they're currently working their way through Tarantino's. I was on for the Pulp Fiction episode. I believe their Jackie Brown episode came out this week. Did I just spoil something?
No, it's coming out.
Well,
it's
we're
gonna
going in
come out
order,
this week.
so. Yeah,
Oh.
There's not really anything to spoil.
because it's in order, so there's really nothing you can spoil.
Okay, cool. Well, I think this is coming out on Saturday anyway. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to follow us on our... Oh, actually, you guys, give a shout out to where the people can find you, because this is where I usually do me and Jagger socials, but I don't know your guys's, so why don't you guys... Where can everybody find you?
I mean, for me, everything Cinelapse, and on Twitter Cinelapsed, but I don't really use anything other than Letterboxd, so just follow me on there if you want.
Will, what about you?
Yeah, kind of the same. I just kind of do Letterboxd. It's WMCG11. And then obviously Fistful of Films podcast. If you could check that out and follow, it's awesome as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great pod. Me and Jagger have both enjoyed listening to it. If you want to follow me and Jagger, I'm Trey the Film Noob. TikTok, Twitter, Letterboxd. He is Jagger Film Reviews on TikTok, Jagger Film Fan on Letterboxd, and Jagger the Movie Guy on Instagram and Twitch, and I believe Twitter. So everybody, thank you for listening today. We'll be with you tomorrow for an episode of The Shining, which Allan and Will both be on again, to talk about, not my favorite, I don't know, it's in contention for my favorite horror movie. So we'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks for listening.